Welcome, everybody. It is officially Tuesday. We are back in the studio, drove back in overnight, 16 hours from Charlotte, North Carolina, over here to Denton, Texas. I'm back. I'm your host for KC Happy Hour, Xander Clements. Good to have you guys here. I got my co-host here. He's going to be joining us pretty much weekly, every time that we can get him, Aaron. And we've got a few guests that'll be joining here as the show goes on. We'll bring them in when we get some time here. First, though, let's go over what a solid weekend that we had here this weekend. Wanted to say big thanks to everybody who tuned into our live stream. We had some awesome feedback from all you guys. Each weekend, I feel like we're getting a little bit stronger, kind of putting those on and learning a little bit more. We've got, we had a little bit of a hiccup, obviously, Sunday. We couldn't get our full leaderboard up. And here and there, a little bit of bugs still that we're working on, but I think I posted on social media. I kind of rated us about an A- on the weekend. So solid. Definitely, I think our smoothest run weekend altogether. Big shout out to our awesome crew that pulls that one off. Trevor, our co-owner and COO for Kart Chaser, behind the scenes, did an awesome job helping man the crew. Jenna, Emery, Caleb were awesome on air, and of course all the drivers and everyone for being willing to do all the interviews and everything that we do, because we ask a whole lot of everybody. US Pro Kart Series and Mark Coates and their whole team are always super welcoming, just like when we go to any other event. And so just wanted to say a big first thanks to everyone who did tune in. And we got a couple weeks before we get going with the next one. We have our doubleheader weekend, so that's what we're kind of in planning mode for now, is to get ready for that TSRS Stars Championship Series events coming on May 21st and 22nd. That's a couple weeks out, which means we get a few different happy hour episodes to kind of talk about different stuff. Obviously, this episode is going to be focused heavily on the fallout of the US Pro Kart Series event, but there was other racing going on over the weekend. The Padholder Cup was getting underway over at Tri-City Kart Club. We talked about it coming into the weekend. They had about 175 pre-entries each day. They don't run every class each day. I think they run most of them both days. But it seemed like overall a solid turnout for those guys. Again, it's always good when we can have major touring series races on different sides of the country and not really pull too far. There were a few Northwestern guys, especially like the cadets, obviously Rallis Performance Group based out of the Pacific Northwest, but a few others that came down and ran the US Pro Kart Series. The rest of them got their region going. I was looking through Speed Hive to get the results for it, and I mean, there's a ton of racing going on right now. So season's officially well underway. We're just getting to the midway part of spring. We're coming up on the summer stretch. It's already the month of May. But yeah, kudos to those guys. Tri-Cities looks like a freaking cool racetrack. And for those of you that did watch the broadcast or see some of our posts on our story, we got a cool little offset suit that our partner did for me. I'm hoping to do a bunch of different club races at different tracks around the country that we wouldn't be going to for a broadcast or for a national level race. I'd love to get up and do one or two in the Pacific Northwest. I don't know how fast I'm going to go in those. This has been a little bit of a while back since I was good enough to even get onto the box with this trophy right over here. So we'll probably do 206 or maybe 100cc stuff. But anyway, I would love to get up there. This place looks really cool, and for that region to be going good is awesome. So we got the winners going across the bottom of the screen. Obviously, the US Pro Kart Series got underway as well. Aaron and myself were up there. Aaron was tuning, so we didn't have him on our crew for the weekend, but 300-plus entries, massive turnouts, the biggest KA senior turnout I think the series has ever seen, if I'm not mistaken. Aaron, you can correct. I don't think they've gone above 65 before.
No, yeah. So last year we had 60 at Ocala, Road America, Newcastle, and then it was 50 at GoPro for the season finale. Those were the biggest we'd seen. So 65, I think if that was the final number, that's the biggest that they've had for a KA senior class up there.
Yeah, so massive turnout for KA Senior. They obviously ran the X30 guys together, but as a whole, the event went really, really good. Big kudos to the GoPro Motorplex staff. They had a massive undertaking on their hands because that facility, it has room, but it doesn't have Newcastle Motorsports Park or some of the other tracks we go to. Massive paddock. So we were packed out all the way to the road. I don't know how they're going to be able to do it, but they always manage to find space for everybody every single year. So if the series keeps growing, it's going to be interesting to see how it moves on moving forward. But we got the winners going across the bottom of the screen. We'll talk about a lot of the racing. Had a lot of you guys send in your request of what you wanted to talk about on the show. So we're going to get to that in the final segment when we do. I had a lot of good feedback from everybody. I want to say thanks to everyone who either emailed us or messaged us or replied on the Instagram and Facebook story of stuff you wanted us to talk about. We'll get to as much as we can within the hour. I want to make sure that we get time for it, but that'll be at the end of the show when we do all your questions. And just like always, you guys can send on in your questions here in the comments below. If you have any other comments that come up, whether it's stuff we talk about or stuff you maybe saw over the weekend on the broadcast or were there on the race weekend, if you didn't get to send in any input, I'll read those too and make sure to mark them, and we'll have Aaron go through and help us pull them up as well. But before we go any bit further, let's introduce all of our guests here tonight. First of all, surprise guest, big thanks here to Chase Jones for helping figure out a dog sitter so that way we can have him over here. Chase, thanks for coming, buddy.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys.
So for those who don't know Chase Jones is a co-owner and team manager for MPG Motorsport. So he was in action here at USPKS. And like me, low on sleep for the week, dude. Like we were talking right before, you slept for all about 30 minutes Thursday night, right?
Oh, yeah. I got in late from finals on Wednesday. Drove straight through the night to be with the team on Thursday morning for practice.
Yeah. And then your dad got up a little bit early Friday morning. He was ready to get to the racetrack.
Yeah. When he's up, man. So there's no sleeping in, that's for sure.
Well, Chase isn't the only one we got here tonight. I'm careful. No one needs to worry about anything going bad. We had a good talk with both of the other guests that we have coming on. But obviously, if you read the description, you know who we got. John Burke, Pauly Massimino are here as well. Boys, thank you for coming on. Pauly, are you in bed, Pauly? And you're muted.
Yeah, I was sleeping up until 7:56. I got a little sick yesterday, so been relaxing.
Fair enough. And John, I appreciate the setup, dude. You got a killer studio, way better than mine, dude. I've got one of these. You got like about 7 behind you, so that's sick.
Yeah, thank you. Had Nate Dogg help me out.
There you go. So these guys obviously got into it on the racetrack, but everybody else was going hard all weekend. We're going to touch on that after our first commercial break. We're going to send it away for it. When we do come back, we want to kind of talk especially about some of the racing we already had kind of coming in. A few of you guys had asked. We talked a little bit about the USPKS weekend and some of your submissions. So some of those questions might get answered in this middle segment that we got coming up. But we want to hear Pauly and John's sides. We want to kind of talk it through. They talked a little bit Sunday. I talked with both of them a little bit beforehand. So we're not going crazy tonight. But I think it's really good whenever we do have anything that goes on the racetrack and drivers willing to talk about it after, especially on a platform like what we've got here, to kind of give you both sides of the situation, where they're at, how they felt about it in the moment, how they feel now, and move forward. Because like I've said a bunch of times on this show, the idea for happy hour is to kind of be for us karting nerds that just can't stop talking about this sport and want to go in depth. It's not our intro broadcast. It's not our cool paddock pass videos or TikToks or anything else like that. This is the show for guys that are really into it and a little more adult kind of talk show podcast based. But I know that we have a lot of young drivers that watch us all the way down to the kid kart and micro ranks. And I want you guys to understand, and I want you to see good examples of role models that we have of how to handle both wins and losses on a big stage, because that's what we've got. And that's hopefully where we're headed with this sport as we continue to try to grow it. And eventually at the top classes, like the senior divisions, and even to a degree, the supporting classes, like the kids classes on the upwards up the ladder, of having spectators and people watching, because the racing that we have in the sport is bar none. But there's a lot that comes with that. There's a little bit of thick skin you have to have as a driver, which obviously Pauly and John know as well. That you know, when it comes to social media, anyone can say anything. Anyone's an expert as much as they have an account and a phone or a keyboard. So there's a lot to it, but there's ways to kind of handle yourself professionally. And obviously, if you want to be, successful in business, whether it's outside of racing or especially in it, if you go up the minor leagues of car racing and hope to go to IndyCar, NASCAR, or Formula One, you've got to deal with media, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And that's something that no one's going to be able to avoid here on all fronts. So anyway, we'll get to that after this commercial break. First, a quick word from our partners, and we'll come right back here with KC Happy Hour.
At New Gen Motorsport, we're committed to using our 10-plus years of experience and knowledge to help grow the sport of karting from the bottom up. Our goal is to make karting more accessible to the average person, lessening the financial burden of getting started, and making the learning curve as small as possible. Our passion is training and developing drivers, mechanics, and engineers to not only be the best they can be in karting, but also for careers in the much larger world of professional motorsports. As strong foundation makes building bigger easier. Let us be that foundation for your karting and motorsports career. Be part of the new generation of motorsport. Contact us today to schedule your test day, arrive and drive race event, or to inquire about how we can help get you started in your own new gen racing kart. Kart Store USA is a kart parts supplier that racers and retailers can count on when they need reliable advice and service. We focus on servicing all racers with honesty and pride while maintaining customer satisfaction. We carry a full stock of Kart Republic and Tony Kart chassis, as well as IAMI and Vortex Rock engines. We've also got a host of other parts available and in stock, such as products from Rev Performance Materials, Jekko Racing Seats, and more. We have a 100% satisfaction guarantee, and on top of that, if your order exceeds $200, shipping is on us. Check out all we have to offer today by visiting us online at kartstore-usa.com. Looking to join one of the fastest growing kart clubs in the United States? Check out the Mississippi Karters Association. Located at the legendary Spring Ridge Raceway in Jackson, Mississippi, the MKA and Drive Your Line Kart Shop have already kicked off their 2022 year with a massive increase in drivers and some awesome racing. Even if you don't have a kart yet, you can get involved by checking out the Drive Your Line Kart Shop, which is an official dealer of Comp Kart, Tillotson, and Margate chassis, as well as Briggs & Stratton, Tillotson, Yamaha, and IAMI engines. If you're a new, returning, or current racer, the MKA and Drive Your Line Kart Shop can help you get in the seat and on the track in the central Mississippi region. Check them out online on Facebook or at misskarting.com and driveyourline.com.
So welcome back, everybody. Let's go ahead and get everyone back on into the studio. Make sure everyone's ready to go. Before we go, for those of you guys that may or may not have seen the clip already, we'll play it back one time, and then we'll get John and Pauly's takes and kind of go around the room a little bit about it. It's no secret KA has been a little bit rowdy this year. X30 Jr. is notoriously rowdy. Honestly, this weekend I thought those guys were a lot tamer outside of the Sunday finish where it got a little bit out of hand. And that whole race, but for the most part, the racing in the X30 junior class, I thought was actually a lot better than where it's been. And the KA stuff was getting better than where we've been on the year. But yeah, without further ado, let's go ahead. Let's roll the clip.
Final lap of the US Pro Kart Series stop here in Mooresville, North Carolina. Burke on the bottom. Crossover move coming from Massimino. He's got the inside up the hill. Burke's going to drive into him, and they wreck for the lead. Massimino's in the wall. Burke's in the wall. Aiden Levy to the lead into 4.
Levy dove it all the way down to the bottom to try to block for as much as he could. And just like that, a 5-car lead goes down to a 5-car battle goes down to a 3, as now we got Levy out in front. Other two are coming up behind. Ramos in third. Ramos going to go high, trying to run on the outside line. Burke on the brakes, look for a crossover. Major crossover from Ramos.
Ramos side by side with Stanfield. Levy just trying to block. He never got a national podium before yesterday. Now Stanfield gets through. Here comes Ramos. He'll go to the inside for second. Alex Stanfield trying to get redemption from Saturday. And across the line, he will win on Sunday.
So, boys, let's talk about it here. Got a little bit hairy in turn number 3. John, let's pass it to you. Your take, walk us through your point of view for that last lap.
I went to block for the first turn, and I messed up a little bit, washed out. And then I blocked for the turn 3 and turned in, and we wrecked.
Yeah. Pauly, your side on that deal?
Yeah, so we went down into turn 1. He blocked a little bit. He blocked down to the bottom. I stayed to the outside. Got the run out of turn 1, and you could in the video you could see him look left and he doesn't see me. So I think as soon as he looked back over, he figured I'm on the other side, so he's got to go. And he turned in, and we just happened to crash.
And again, one thing before I'll kind of say my piece, and then I'll pass it to Aaron and Chase for what you guys saw, because you guys were both there watching the racing a little bit. You guys were working together, most of the weekend, which I think a lot of people probably don't know based off that clip of going at it for the win. And I think Race put this one pretty good right there, not giving an inch, wanting to take a mile for both of you guys. I mean, it's the last lap. You're going for it for the win. John, you had mentioned before we had talked on the show, I mean, you're out of the points after your DNFs from Orlando, so you're going for checkered flags. Pauly's in a one-off situation, going for the checkered flag. Neither of you guys were close enough to really get to fight too much on the day before. John, you especially, you got kind of booted out of the lead pack. But yeah, you guys are working together, right? You guys were trying to push together in some of the heat races and early on in the weekend.
Yeah, pretty much the whole weekend we worked together
Mhm.
really good until that one point.
Yeah. Which, to break it down, I mean, camera angles are always going to be a little bit awkward. And I want to preface this too by, standing up for the US Pro Kart Series. Those guys were taking a little bit of a heat on the comment sections on all of it from the officiating side. Now, I want to reiterate to all of our viewers here, we've been having kind of, you're going to have close quarters racing where it both ends up in tears and ends up with a really good finish, like the X30 shootout from the Grands last year in any kind of class where they're packed up like that on the last lap and guys are going for it. I think everybody knows how competitive the sport is now more than ever. It seems that it's harder and harder to win and harder to get into those positions to win. But you've got, it's not a fault on the series at all for not necessarily even that incident, to be honest. There was a lot more rough driving further back in the pack that the cameras didn't really catch. That is more of the kind of root of the issue a little bit with what we're seeing in that class, what we've seen in some of the junior divisions, especially the X30 junior class up until this weekend, which really wasn't that bad. I'll play that finish in a little bit. But you guys, all the parents, all the drivers watching along, remember that a lot of the officials are, not only hard to find, but for those that are full-time in the sport, they are at all the different events under every different series umbrella. You'll see a number of the same faces at a USPKS race. You'll see at a Rock race. You'll see at a SCUSA race. You'll see at a Stars Championship Series race. And that goes all the way from the timing and scoring people to the race directors, to the tech directors, to the grid people, to the pit pass sales you see. So when we have issues on the racetrack and we get frustrated about calls, it's important to distinguish as much as we can if there is a fault at the series. And I've made it clear on this show, I have no issue calling out when I think series are doing things wrong. But for the most part, they're a promotional group. And the officials, unlike where in certain series, like in Supercross, they've had the AMA be the sanctioning body and Feld, the promoter group, is separate. It's kind of like that here because Mark Coates, Tom Kutcher, and Garrett Potter, they try as much as they can to leave it to their officials to make those calls. They're the promoters of the event. They are that brand series. And while it kind of does get grouped together, I think it's important for everyone to understand that these guys are working really, really hard for only a couple days. Only recently have we started to see pay rates go up a little bit for the officials across the industry. And it varies series to series, really based on entry count and what the series can pull in. But these guys are darn near volunteers for how hard the work is. It's probably the least fun job. And I can say that because I've done about every job at the racetrack there is, from coaching, tuning, officiating. But in that instance there, I think all of our people watching, it looks a lot worse than it is. Like what John said, and like what Pauly said, John looked to the left, didn't see him there, figured maybe he was behind him if he wasn't to the left and it needed to get down. And then by the time he got down, obviously it came together. And I've said, even when we had this talk a little bit before we went on the air too, that when it comes to the officiating, my always rule set of whether or not I would call a penalty on anything is if you're far enough inside that by the time the guy comes down on you and your front tire hits any part of his side pod, it's going to bounce him off. It's very rarely going to spin him. Where you guys kind of hit, it was at the point of contact, or at least maybe Pauly was probably farther enough up on the side pod there was tire to tire contact. And that's what spun you guys all the way out there, right? And it was early before the corner. It wasn't like at the apex. I think Pauly probably would have gotten there before John was moving over to defend. But anyway, without going further, Aaron, Chase, you guys watch the race. You're fully spectators in this. No dog in the fight because no MPG drivers or WPKs were in that lead group. So, Chase, your take on that deal on the final lap?
Yeah, no, I thought John had the right move going into one. This is Pauly's wheelhouse of a track. I mean, it's his home track, and you didn't see that move going into three from anyone. But with his experience there, I felt like, if he was going to do it, it was going to be that corner. With John looking left, it kind of made the right side blind. However, turn three, it has all that exit, so. I don't think John had to move down a lane, but I know he didn't know Pauly was on the inside just because, the exit of three is so wide. And, it proved that the exit speed, running that line was even quicker than pinching it off. But at the end of the day, the way I see it, it was just a racing incident. Pauly knew he had to go for it. John was looking left, just like I said, but I think John would have had the exit speed coming out of 3, possibly could have got in front of Pauly, with Pauly staying tighter, before going into turn 4, the bull turn. But as soon as Pauly gets the lead there, I think that just determined the race just because of his experience at that racetrack. So I just think it's a racing incident, and I don't blame either of them for it.
Yeah. Aaron, your take?
Yeah, I'm pretty much with Chase. It looked like a real racing incident to me. To be fair to Pauly, I think he had established position going into turn 3, and he was there. But to be fair to John, that's not a place you typically expect to see a pass. It's just 2 guys going really hard for the same position, and it not working out for either of them. Like Chase said, I think Pauly, it probably been advantageous for John to hold the outside and just carry the momentum going into 4. But if Pauly did get ahead, it's going to be really hard to pass Pauly at GoPro, especially. So it's just, like I said, 2 guys racing really hard for the same spot, and I wouldn't call any penalties on anyone for that.
And moving on from the incident altogether, I mean, John and Pauly, both of you guys saw the racing out there. Pauly, you and I were even talking a little bit before the show, just me and you earlier, and how that class specifically, it seems you said even from last year to this year seems like it's just gotten rougher. And we're not talking this incident here, the racing incident, but I do want to lead into it, knowing that we were kind of close quarters with the lead pack. The mid pack, the racing all throughout, it just gets rougher and rougher and rougher from the lead pack backwards. And you've noticed that it's more contact than where it's been.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think Kay has definitely, everyone in the class has definitely stepped up their aggressiveness, and it used to be a class where you get into the lead or you be in second and try to push away, but now it just seems like everybody wants to race, and like I would always try and push away throughout the weekend, but then you just have people come in and stuff you, so you kind of had to just be the same way, or else you'd go backwards.
And John, I mean, you've done KA regional racing, and I can't remember if you did any KA stuff last year. I know you were mainly X30, but what do you think?
Yeah, no, it's definitely much rougher in the midfield and even the front pack than it used to be. But I don't know. It's a draft pack, so when you have 10 cars that are the same speed, no one's going to sit in second, third, or fourth. Everyone wants to lead. So to be honest, it's just going to be you're going to race for the lead the whole time. Maybe the years past, you didn't have so many people in one pack.
Yeah. I mean, the class has exploded. The motor package, the VLR and the KA, both of them have been really good for the sport when it comes to budget racing. And, like Pauly said, like John said, I mean, we'll cover this in a little bit when we're going to cover the class structures of the sport, because that was one of the submissions that we had of people kind of asking for us to break it down a little bit simpler. So for some of our newer viewers getting into karting, or maybe even not in karting yet, but just following the broadcast, can kind of understand what the division is. But K is 100cc, 22 horsepower class to the X30, 125, 30 horsepower. The slower you go, the easier it is to get to the limit, and the more guys you see up to a lead pace. I mean, the style is different, but where we go from Briggs 206 until it's in 212 up to Pro Shifter becomes, I'd say, probably more, and maybe not more equipment based, but less the driver can do to separate. And so we go with both of you guys. You guys are both X30 caliber guys that could be in the lead pack if the stuff's right in the X30 class, but we almost double the lead pack that we see in a KA class. And like you said, John, I mean, it's where I've always kind of said it is like when you have that pack racing, someone makes a bad pass for like 4th, 5th, or 6th, and the pack splits up and then it never rejoins. So that's kind of why you see guys like Die Bomb, and I think, to go to the lead of the group. And then on the flip side, you have inexperienced guys maybe that are running at your guys' pace, are like, holy wow, I'm up front with Pauly and with John and with, Jeremy is running this year, and Stanfield and whoever, and I'm as fast as them, or I feel like I'm faster than them because the drafts make me feel like Superman and I can pass them. But really, the draft's just a illusion. You're just getting a suck up on the straightaway. Everyone's running the same lap time or within 2/10. But I don't know. But it's something we'll talk about. We'll get to it more. We'll keep you boys on so you guys can be part of the submissions and the discussions we have coming later in the show. But I want to say both John and Pauly, appreciate you guys at least being kind of open about the incident. And you guys did end up going out of your way to kind of find each other Sunday night, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
we've hugged it out and all that.
Made up.
Yeah,
Did
no
you-
hard
did-
feelings. Just two people want the same results. It happens. Nothing against anyone. I think USPKS does a great job, and I was never looking for a call right there. I'm happy to race in the series, and I love what all those guys do, and I'm ready for the next one.
All right. Well, we'll take it off that here. We'll go to commercial. When we come back, we're going to kick things off kind of doing a little clip where we just kind of go through the classes to explain to some of our new viewers. And then we get to the juicy stuff. There was tech. There was a whole lot of – there's always a little bit of drama when you got a bunch of big names, big racers, and racing at the top level. I mean, there's drama that goes down to the club level too. This is a competitive sport, and everybody wants to win. But there's storylines out of each event. Out of the SUSA Pro Tour at NOLA Motorsports Park, they confiscated and claimed and took motors out of circulation, along with doing heavy post-race tech inspection at home at the labs and at the shop for Ryan Norberg, for Jeremy Fletcher and Kay, and then for Troy Ferguson in micro. They did something a little different at the USPKS. They didn't claim anybody's motors, but we'll go over the tech stuff. We'll go over the class stuff, all the submissions and all the questions you guys in comments you're sending on in. We'll talk about that here after the break. Stick with us, guys.
KC Happy Hour is presented by Precision Performance Karting. PPK is the exclusive South Florida distributor for the American-made Coyote Zenith kart racing chassis. PPK is offering trackside support at all the Cup Kart South Division events, the CKNA Majors, including the Spring Nats and the Grand Nats, the Sunshine State Karting Challenge, and a number of club events in the Southeast. New here for 2022 and in partnership with Brandon Jarscrack Racing, PPK is also offering full arrive and drive opportunities in the Junior Senior Briggs 206 classes at the popular Stars Championship Series and the GoPro Motorplex Karting Challenge events. The same professionally prepared kart and motor package has propelled Brandon to victories at Winter Nationals and the Monticello Divisional in 2022 are available to you. In addition to the Coyote line of racing chassis, Precision Performance Karting is also a distributor for Odenthal Racing products, Hilliard clutches, Vega tires, and Greyhound racing seats. Check out Precision Performance Karting on Facebook and Instagram or email them at ppkartingfl@gmail.com.
As the Western importer of the Praga and Formula K chassis brands, Leading Edge Motorsports is a high-performance kart shop and race team with a simple mission: teach others the joy of high-performance driving, supply our customers with the highest quality products and services, and most of all, win races. With our remarkable racing inventory, expert services, and top-ranked national-level team to back it up, we'll help to get your new kart racing package up and running fast. From arrive and drive service to kart preparation and driver coaching to the parts you need to get you back on the racetrack, Leading Edge Motorsports is the industry answer. So welcome back, everybody. I just got appreciate Jerry tuning in here. This is Jeremy Fletcher's grandpa, and he was mentioning the motors from SUSA have been returned to the drivers. So we actually didn't think they were coming back from when we talked with Norberg. The motors are back, so I forgot to text and follow up on that. But hey, good to have the viewers that we do have and all the good guys around the industry tuning in. So the motors from SUSA, they were confiscated to go and get a further closer look. They've since been returned, so they're not out of circulation. Wanted to update that comment. Thanks for sending that in, Jerry. Much appreciated. Before we get to the juicy stuff with everybody, which there is going to be some good stuff that we had a few anonymous comments that got a little bit racy. So I think we'll have fun kind of breaking those down a little bit and going through it. But let me go through here. This was one that we got off the Instagram submissions, and he asked me to kind of go through the class structure a little bit really quickly. So I'll try to break this down about as simply as possible. I have a quick little graphic that'll first go over the age groups, which is the first toughest part for everyone to kind of understand. Because the way that it's named, it's pretty much across the board. We have Kid Kart, 5 to 7 years old, pretty much a club or regional series only class. The WK Man Cup calls itself a national and has a Kid Kart class in it, which is where any parent that wants to travel more than probably a 4 to 6 hour radius ends up going. But that's the entry level class. Some clubs don't even end up scoring them in terms of results. Every kid gets a trophy. At this point, this is just a great entryway. Kids can start driving these karts and practicing at 3 to 4 years old with the size of them. It's a size smaller kart, runs a 50cc motor. Miami has the Miami M1 Bambino. A lot of clubs in Texas and a few other areas, I think in California, also run a Honda GX50, which I've heard a lot of good things about. Briggs, with their 206 engine, has a super restricted version that they have for kid kart setup, which is the fastest one of all the kid kart motors, I believe, by a couple seconds. And then you have the original kid kart motor. I won't say original, like way back in the day, but at least the motor that's been before those three and is still around and still used at certain races, which is the Comer C50, 51, and 52. And that's where you guys get in. Then you have the rest of the age groups here, where we have micro, which is 7 to 10 years old, 8 to 12-year-old is mini, 11 to 15 is junior. A lot of the classes call them senior at 14 plus, but to kind of help for newer fans as well, to distinguish the levels at each class, and with some of the series calling them pro classes, I usually will take out the word senior and put pro for X30, which is the 125 class we'll get to in a minute, and for the shifter guys. And then you have masters, and sometimes CKNA, which is the leading four-cycle organization in the country that runs 206 racing, and we'll get to the engines in a moment. They have a legends class, which is like 50 plus. Some clubs will do that stuff too. The difference with the masters is you're not racing kids that are going to be in the go-kart every single week. You're racing guys that have a 9 to 5, probably want to go to work on Monday. And in theory, they don't race as aggressive, but we have seen some aggressive stuff in the masters classes quite a bit over the years. Those guys throw haymakers sometimes. So, but that's the basic nomenclature when it comes to the class and age groups. And then there's really, in my opinion, where we're at with the U.S. right now, we've got kind of 4 tiers when it comes to engines and really levels. If you want to go D, B, C, B, A, or really CBA and kind of 2 tied at the A level for pro classes, which is the X30 and the shifter. So when you go to the base of the pyramid, you go with the slowest motors, which is your Briggs 206, and Tillotson has the Tillotson 212, which is the comparable version of a Briggs 206 engine. These are 4-cycle engines, which is a different type of motor. That's why the number is higher. It's the number of CCs that the motor puts out, but they normally put out about 9 to 10 horsepower. It's meant to be cheaper. You can only run the packages between $800 to $1,000. You can obviously run them at national races. CKNA has national races, but it's not the exact same type of national, I would say, as what we have at the USPKS, the SCUSA, the rock races. And not a knock on it, but it's more of a grassroots national. eKarting News dubbed it as kind of the SCCA runoffs of karting, because it's meant for this entry-level grassroots motor, this economy motor, budget racer motor. And you have now, because the numbers have gotten so big at that event, you'll see a lot of big-name guys go and run it. Brandon's going to run it. Pauly Brandon Jarschak will run again this year. Pauly ran it last year. More guys will run. And you see some different manufacturers with them too, but that's the easiest one to start. Then you go up in the budget and you go to the kind of the middle level, and that's your 100cc racing. So that's the KA classes we talk about. It's again a 2-stroke motor, so the CCs are lower, but it's more than double the horsepower, 22 horsepower, a little more than double the price. You also have a little bit of a more expensive maintenance period, but this is a good happy medium. For a lot of clubs, the best way I think to do the class structure, if you're really going to focus in, besides letting guys bring out shifters and 125s and whatever go-karts they want to practice on, or just run because they want to go faster, when you look at the club level and the best way to kind of get in, I think a two-prong structure doesn't put too many weights on the classes, because you have micro and mini or a combined cadet class, you have your kid kart class, you have junior, senior, and sometimes a master. So that's already 5 classes off one engine grouping. So having 206 or Tillotson and then having 100cc kind of leg up, so that way you can kind of boot your faster, more experienced, maybe higher budget drivers up to the 100cc class, so you still have a good kind of novice, entry-level, or budget economy classes like a BA, semi-pro, and pro, if you want to call it, however you want to say it, for the club level. I think that structure works really, really good. When you add in a bunch of other different motors and a bunch of classes, you kind of dilute your numbers a little bit. There's nothing wrong with having them if your club racers want them, but if you're starting a brand new club, the best thing to do is to start with the base of the pyramid, and then as that class grows to 25 to 30 and above, then you can split off your numbers a little bit by adding the 100cc classes. And a prime example of that over the last few years has been the guys up at Pittsburgh International Race Complex. They've been a 206 only series for the last 4 seasons, regrowing the club scene over there. And this year they're adding 100cc classes, which hopefully will attract not only drivers that aren't already at the club level that are 100cc drivers in the region, but hopefully some of their top 206 drivers to graduate to the 100cc classes go a little bit faster. With the higher horsepower, hopefully they're able to afford it or do some. They have some really good incentive programs and contingency programs to get them into it. And that works out really good. It's a good two-prong system. And you start to see the 100cc stuff at regional racing. You see the 206s at every regional series and then the CKNA Nationals. But it really works better to kind of keep some of those motors away from the national stuff because, as we've heard on this show all the time, all this focus and money is in the X30 and the Pro Shifter classes, and everyone complains about Norberg's motor, and the shifter guys complain about each other's KZ motors. You don't want a national motor coming down to a club race and finding its way there. So I'm always a big proponent of having somewhat different tiered classes when it comes to that. And then moving from the mid-level 100cc, you get to the 125cc classes. These are only junior and senior only for 100 and the 125. There's a 60cc cadet that's the mini and the micro Swifts. So it's kind of B and A with 206, and then with the mini the IME Swifts or the mini Rocks. But then the 125 classes have a junior and a senior and a master. That's your pro classes for the single speed. It's the fastest we go in the U.S., which is 30 horsepower. There's some higher horsepower formats they run over in Europe and a little bit different structure, but we're just talking in the North America, especially with the U.S. right here. So that's the top. So that's what we call the pro class. And because it's offered at all 15 of the U.S. majors that we follow, the Rock Florida Winter Tour, you could replace the Rock Winter Tour with the Challenge of the Americas on the West Coast, have your 3 either way. So you could say 18 total, but not a lot of guys run all 18. Most people run 15. They run the SCUSA Winter Series, the Rock Winter Tour, US Pro Kart Series, SCUSA Pro Tour, Rock Vegas, SCUSA Supernats, and the Miami Grand Nationals. The X30, the 125 Pro Senior class is at all 15. So it made it easy for us to follow it. It also, in my opinion, has the most depth of talent, more than the shifter. Not that they're better or worse than the shifter drivers. We don't have as many shifter drivers that can run up front with AJ Myers and Danny Formal right now compared to what we have in the 125 class. So from a marketability, it was easier for us to go to. But top of the pyramid when it comes to European karting, and the hardest kart to drive, the fastest kart to drive is the 125 shifters. There's also a 175cc option with IAME that they kind of detune to run with the 125s, but you normally go to 40 to 45 horsepower. You're obviously a gearbox class, which all those classes before are single speeds. So you actually have to shift up and down in a 6-speed sequential gearbox. The engine pricing, you can see, skyrockets all the way up to what AJ was saying was about an $8,000 fully blueprinted KZ motor, which is an open manufacturer class that allows all the ones to compete. And again, just like the X30 stuff is listed there, I think both of those don't really work well when you have them at the club level, at least with like a heavy emphasis on it. You can have those classes offered, but really it's better, I think, to focus and put a lot of promotion to the 206 Tillotson and then the KA stuff. And then, when you have these guys with the higher, budgets and the more emphasis, I mean, this is better suited for regional racing to warm up and then national racing. And I won't count GoPro Motorplex or Newcastle or LAKC as club racing because those guys are so big, they can be almost really regional racing. But that's pretty much it on the class structure. Now let's get to the fun stuff here with a lot of fun comments that we've had. So let's go in first and foremost to this comment. I'm going to lead this into the tech comment because this was actually something I got as an email. They wanted to remain anonymous. And, let's go ahead and go here. So it says, what steps is the USPKS taking to further clamp down on the bullets, which talking about motors? What are they looking to clamp down on the bullets and performance-enhanced super engines, especially in the micro category? Will they institute claim rules similar to SCUSA? This past weekend's races were shameful. It's clear these bullets have been sold to the highest bidder in backdoor dealings and passed amongst teams. It does a huge disservice to the kids and the families who pour their time and energy into seat time only to be snuffed out by bullets. Other sports promote equity by disallowing steroids. Why would karting be any different? That was a shot.
That's a lot, man.
That's a big shot. But it's a good segue. First of all those series do heavy teardown. I think this is coming from maybe a parent that maybe hasn't been in the tech barn to see the USPKS guys up close. I talked with Rick Jump. I think we're going to do a really cool video at Road America, and I may ask SCUSA if they'd be open to doing it too. I haven't talked to them yet, but I talked to Rick because it was over the weekend. I was like, Rick, I think it'd be cool if people kind of saw, because not everybody runs in the top 5. A small percent do, like Pauly and John down there, ran up front, although Pauly missed tech on Sunday because he sucks and wanted to go kiss the tire barrier. They will all know what goes on. It's kind of meant to be a little bit behind closed doors because you don't want to give away the engine builder's secrets, and there is a little bit to that. But I got a text from Rick Jump, and he was letting me know kind of what they all did over the weekend. So first thing is, by the time they got to Sunday at the end of the weekend, when they knew that everyone was not going to have need the motors back the next day to be able to be ready and competitive, they split the cases, they split the cranks. They literally are pulling pieces out all the way down to the bare bone. Nothing is off limits in terms of what they're going to check on those carts. They went all the way down to make sure they had the correct rod in the engine. They did that on the top pro money winner in X30 Pro Junior. That was a BN engine, which was Max Garcia. They did it on the first and second money winners in X30 Pro, which was an AVP Rollison Performance Group motor, obviously for Ryan Norberg, a Speed Lab engine for Cameron Weinberg. Tore them all the way down to the bone. First place in KA100 Junior, that was a Comet engine. I don't know if that was for Elio Meza or for Garcia. I think it might have been Garcia because I think they were doing it on Sunday, and Garcia won Junior on Sunday. But first place in KA Junior, torn all the way down, and first place in KA Senior on Sunday was an Allison engine with Alex Stanfield, tore down to the bone. All of those different engine builders, all past tech, no outside, no non-OEM parts, nothing out of line. They tore them all the way down. And on top of that, because there's obviously other ways besides just the motor that you can cheat on your equipment. For example, it's run rampant so bad in dirt karting, they don't even penalize against applying chemicals to make your tires either last longer or be softer because it was so tough for them to check. Well, in sprint karting and road course racing, applying chemicals to your tires is banned. You are not allowed to do any kind of chemical prep. You can't cut your own rain tires, cut grooves into them. You have to run them as they are, out of the box, put them on the go-kart and go run. And if you get caught, you're instantly DQ'd and usually some heavy, heavy suspensions. That's one way. Another way is messing with your fuel and adding additives to the fuel. Now, they check both of these in tech, not sporadically, but randomly throughout the weekend. At any time, you're going to get your tires checked. They want to make sure you're running the correct set, not putting a new set on at any time, no chemicals in it, and checking the fuel because they all will dip a fuel tester in. And normally they'll go through the whole field with a fuel tester because it's just drop it in your gas tank, see how you are. But there's still, again, ways to work around everything. So what they did to try and help alleviate the rumors is on Saturday, unannounced to the drivers, rolling up to the grid for X30 Pro, the top 5 starters all had to go to tech, empty their fuel tanks, empty their fuel lines, and tech mixed their fuel to the exact mixture for oil and gas and pumped it into Ryan Norberg's cart, to Austin Garrison's cart. Pauly, did you start top 5 Saturday? You did, right? Or no?
Yeah. Yeah.
Pauly went through the same thing. So, Pauly, can you even tell that was all surprise, right? You're pushing up to the grid and they told you guys to report to tech, or how'd that go?
They told us after the pre-final in tech, they told us we got to come back 20 minutes early before our final to come and get fuel.
Yeah. So, so full tech teardown, random, USPKS official fuel Saturday when Ryan was able to get away. In all cases, he's passed. All the engines passed. Now, in terms of the parity of what I think, this parent obviously is a little bit frustrated to say that when it comes down to the engines and everything. This isn't an open builder class. You can't just put your own parts in. Where we kind of were talking a little bit with Danny and AJ is like the issue we run into in spec classes versus open classes is you could kind of get a whole batch of motors and try to find a makeshift all-star one from the pieces. And that's, I think, partially why SCUSA wanted to do the claim. And that's you're just never going to fully get away from that. But if they're legal, they're legal. There's nothing wrong with you trying different engines and finding one that works a little bit better. You don't have to stick with one. But to alleviate that too, I mean, ultimately what it comes down to is seat time. The winner in Micro Swift on the weekend, Ashton Moon, drove from 20th up to 1st. And I don't care how much of a rocket ship you have on that thing. Chase can attest to it as a active driver coach and team owner. You could put a rocket ship on a kid. He's still got to go out past, make the right decisions. And as we've seen here, a lot of these races are pack races to the end, right, Chase?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in that caliber is, if you can set yourself apart at the end of the day, it goes a longer way than, somebody having a big motor that's not legal or, vice versa. But at the end of the day, it all just comes out to Racecraft and making the right decisions throughout the race.
So let me go through here. All right. So this was a submission that we had on Instagram as well. I forgot to mention this a little bit earlier. On Saturday's pre-final for X30 Pro, there was a really, really nasty crash. Driver lost brakes and made heavy contact with the outside barrier. His name is Santiago Fernandez. On the broadcast, we said we were under track construction, and then they were checking out a driver. Eventually got word from him. I texted Santiago Saturday night. You can actually go on his Instagram. He posted about the crash and his condition. He did get diagnosed with a concussion, but nothing broken. Some bruises on his neck, obviously heavy whiplash for him, and hitting the barriers, I think, with the head impact. Got the concussion, but nothing broken. Obviously, the concussion is going to take him out for a little bit, but I wanted, while we had this big platform, to let everybody know he is going to be okay. The concussion obviously sucks. I've never personally had one. I don't know if any of you guys have gone through one at all. Anyone over here? Chase, you've had one? Aaron, you've had one?
Yeah, I've had
Yeah,
some.
I got one.
Yeah, I've gotten a couple through sprint car racing. But to touch on that real quick, Xander, you know, the ambulance on site, it needs to become a mandatory thing. You know, with the sprint car world, we don't even touch the track before the ambulance, you know, even gets there. You know, that crash, I saw it personally, and honestly, with how bad it was, I literally thought the guy lost his life. You know, so from that standpoint, the ambulance absolutely needs to be on site before the event rolls off, in my personal opinion.
So this is actually really good, and I'm glad you brought that up. Having worked on track management for a couple years down in Homestead, and understanding the basis of this, and this goes for pretty much all racetracks. Not all of them, but a lot of them. The ambulance that they'll have stationed at the racetrack isn't an ambulance that's going to be insured to be able to transport someone to a hospital. So you see this all the time when we're at any of these races, whether it's Newcastle, Homestead, etc. The ambulance is kind of a dog and pony show because they can't leave the property. They still have to call another ambulance to come in. And that would be the case anyway, because if an ambulance did leave the property for the tracks that the setup is that way, which to my understanding is pretty rare, you'd have to wait for another one to show up before we roll. So understanding that the ambulance really can't do anything besides house the person when they're there, which you're in a box versus not in a box. Then it comes down to, do they have all of the equipment and are all the medics there? And this is important, I think, for the parents to understand. And I had this conversation with a couple of them, and then it's like, oh, it clicks. Because if they have all the equipment of an ambulance, if they have all the same training, if it's the same paramedics and everything, they're really doing the same thing that an ambulance on the site would do. The only difference is whether they have the physical bus and box truck or not. Unfortunately, and I'm 99% sure GoPro falls under this, because this is how things work at Homestead Miami Speedway, and this is how things would work when I worked at AMR Motorplex. So if you have, in some tracks, they do have it where the ambulance can transport offsite instantly. Most of the time they can't. And then like Kimberly Cameron, who helps run the Rock Sonoma group, you have to wait till a new ambulance replaces and is ready to go. But in this case, yeah, there was no physical ambulance there at the moment, but they have all the same capabilities, same training, same equipment as everything as an ambulance would, but they can't transport. So whether you have the ambulance box there, or whether you have those guys on a golf cart with the same equipment and a stretcher, or Homestead Miami Speedway is like a pickup truck sometimes, it doesn't make a difference. It's still there. So all those series know that as well. I think different series have gotten into hot water about it before, but that's where they're at. Now, the perception's reality. I can't explain that to everybody when they walk in the gate every single race weekend. So to a degree, if you could pay for the ambulance, that's why a lot of series will pay for a full ambulance. But it doesn't really make a difference when it comes to the track, because it can't leave the racetrack anyway. That was good.
Yeah, I think it just comes down to having the professionals there at the end of the day, you know. So whether the ambulance there is not, but, you know, the professionals that are in that wheelhouse for the care of the person that's in trouble, I mean, it goes a long way than not having those people, you know.
Yeah, for sure. No, you have to have them there, and I think that's important when it comes to you know, all of it. Here's a good example. Here's Robert M. So when he broke his collarbone at Newcastle many years ago, they had to keep the ambulance on site until the next one appeared before they could transport him. So same thing. A lot of times they have to wait. But there are some tracks where they can leave, but not all of them. All the tracks' insurance are structured different. The series are structured different, and it's not like these series have like a full-time NASCAR crew where they bring their whole team around, or a full, you know, NASCAR and IndyCar do AMR. The other questions we had. Oh, this will be a little bit more fun, a little less nasty. We've obviously did a lot of X30 picks coming into the weekend, and I don't know. Was there any? I wanted to pose it to all you guys here. Pauly, obviously you're on track with him, so it kind of works, kind of doesn't. But I think it'd be good for you to have that on track perspective. And then John, Chase, and Aaron, you guys were watching. Where was this one? Oh, I just had it. Shoot, I should have listed these out a little bit more. But this was a kind of a standout performance. Anyone from the weekend? Maybe a driver of the day, if you will. A guy maybe you didn't expect, or kind of had a better weekend than where he should have, or wasn't on a lot of people's radar. So. Aaron, you were on the preview show. You watched the weekend. Who stuck out to you here from this weekend, besides obviously Norbert putting the big lap on?
I was gonna say I'm not gonna say Norbert because that's a pretty obvious call there. But I mentioned to Cameron Weinberg's mom, I wanted to give them a shout out last week, but they weren't on the entry list, and they said that it was a super last minute call for them to even come out and race. So for them to be a last minute entry and stuff like that, he did really well. In the X30 class, and then in X30 Junior, I think Jacob Kolar actually stood out really well as well on his performance, because I don't think he's from around the GoPro area, and he took it to a lot of the drivers that have a lot of time at GoPro, and he just looked really strong all weekend.
Chase, what about you? Who stood out to you this weekend in X30?
X30 Senior, I'm going to agree with Aaron on this one. I think Cameron Weinberg was really the only person, other than Garrison early on in the race, that had something for Norberg. So he was definitely one of them. And then I'm going to be biased on X30 Junior. I think Max Garcia ran his best weekend ever.
I got yelled at for that last week, man. Come on.
Sorry, man.
Yeah. Biased guys. It's all right. We know where the loyalty lies. You got to stick up for your team. Pauly, who stuck out to you think? Is anyone that was kind of you didn't expect to run as good as they did, that was like, oh, all right, this guy's kind of up near me this weekend?
I'm gonna also agree with them on Cameron Weinberg. Not that I thought he would run up there, but watching him come from, I think he had to start like 19th on Saturday, and by the end of the race, he was pretty much in the pack where I was in, and I think he came across the line fourth. So I definitely think he impressed a lot of people, and he was very quick this weekend. And I think on Saturday, if he didn't get that push down and the pushback in the pre-final, I think he might have had something for Norberg.
John, what about you? You got to vote for Weinberg, or you got to vote for someone else this week? Oh, wait, he's muted. Hold on.
Oh,
there you go. Go ahead, John.
Nah, they're right. Weinberg for sure was the one. Without that bumper, for sure would have won on Saturday. And Chase stole my junior, Garcia, for sure. He's putting everything together. The next weekend, all the juniors got to look out.
I think I think it was a better weekend for Max. I think looking at his racing before, I think he kind of would normally end up, waiting to lead and try and control the race. And it seemed like this weekend the pace wasn't fully there, but he was still trying to lead a whole lot more and seemed a lot more confident. And while he got, obviously got out raced on the last lap on Saturday with Caleb, and then with Sunday with Aiden, I think in both cases, he put himself in a position to win. Whereas before, he'd spent a lot of his races with like stupid pace, but he'd have such a terrible start and kind of get out raced a lot of the race that he'd end up getting onto the box because he's so quick. But he'd had a go-kart that should have won and probably put a second on him. So this week he didn't have that go-kart. I don't think he was outright the quickest. I think Caleb Gaffera had obviously Saturday a ton of pace, and had it not been a pack race with a lot of low lining and blocking, which we'll get to. On Sunday, I think Caleb would have probably broken away, and it would have been one or two other guys with him. So, but the only reason Caleb Gaffera doesn't get the vote there is because, again, he's in kind of Ryan's position. Caleb's been having a stellar year. So congrats to them, and congrats to them. They got a Circle K as an official sponsor. That was announced right before the event. So cool to see some outside brands jumping in. I think the other for X30 for me, obviously Weinberg, but in my eyes, he'd already kind of been on a hot streak coming into this weekend, not on USPKS competition because he was kind of so-so when he went to Orlando. He was decent, but he won the rock race in Orlando the week after. He'd won a Rotax race, which was a smaller group, but that was his first race back, and was pretty quick at NOLA in different pieces, just didn't have it all kind of coming. He'd have kind of hot and cold sessions. And it was funny last week when the guys were picking him and joking about him. Tony was talking about how he just drives the front tires off the thing. You could see how that kid wheels that go-kart. They're just trying to rein him in. But I want to give some love to Justin Ataconis, another rookie who I thought was really, really good this weekend. We talked him up a lot on Saturday, and then he got into the mix again Sunday after kind of some not so good starts. And he's kind of in that position where, again, it's like where Max was in junior, give or take a year and a half ago, where he fell back on the starts. He kind of admitted it. It seemed like his confidence is building, but it's not there yet. But I think he, was really good. And I think this was actually another one I want. This is really good too. I want to have a post coming about it. William Byron has probably had the best pace out of all of the guys far outside of Will's Sunday main at USPKS last year. If you look at all the outside non-karting race car drivers that have come in the last year and a half since we've been doing this, William Byron qualified 10th on pace for Sunday had he would have been able to show up, or Saturday. Qualified to, he didn't get to do, Sunday, yeah. He didn't get to do Saturday qualifying. He had to leave before the Saturday quali on Friday to get his flight to Dover. He qualified 10th. So this is a track he tests a lot. A lot of NASCAR guys use GoPro because it's in their backyard as like training, whether it's TRD or Chevy or whoever. He's got Max Pappas kind of helping guide him on the road courses. But compared to where he was at the Rock Winter Tour at Pompano Beach, where he was either last or like second from last or like third from last in the senior field at like 26 and a second off, Willie B was digging this week. So especially by the end of the day. So shout out to Byron. He was solid. And I like here's another one. Ryan Raff, I think he was solid too. He was solid last year in his first race back. And this was the first time since he's gotten back that he's come to a racetrack that he's raced at before. So kudos to him. Obviously, it was really cool to see him digging up there. He didn't have the main event results I think he wanted. On Saturday, he got really tight, and Sunday was kind of in the mix again. But this was like the first time he's visited a track since coming back after a 4-year hiatus. So Rafa's going to be a mix, I think, as the year goes on. Hopefully, he'll be around more. But Ataconis for sure. And then, yeah, no question, Cameron Weinberg has that bumper penalty not come in, as he said how mad he was about the bumper penalty. Does that bumper penalty not come in Saturday? Does he get up there and mess with Ryan? I don't know. Chase, we were talking about it before the show, man. We've talked about it on the show a lot. You know it, so I want to have you say it because you said it right before we went on the air. These guys are being too nice to Ryan. Ryan even admits it. When you got that kind of pace over the field, you got to stuff that guy first lap.
Man, like, with the package that he has, and, he's a really good driver, no doubt about it. I think Garrison had like one small moment to where I think he could have added a few other guys into that situation, which, might have turned the whole race around a little bit. But yeah, it's like as soon as he gets the lead, it's like, oh, we're fighting for second. But I think guys just need to, battle it out a little bit harder at the beginning of the race. They always, I feel like, race pretty clean compared to what we see in some of the KA side of things. But yeah, I think if you've got the one opportunity that, if Norberg gives you one, you've got to take it.
For sure. And again, Ryan will tell everybody that he'll coach, against guys when he's been on this show. He's like, I don't know why guys are being nice to me and letting me get away when I pulled away from him in a heat race, and that's where they experience the chase. And right now we're seeing Garrison coming back. Like you said, you think he had one shot maybe at it. And Garrison even let Cameron go by early in the Sunday main when he started to fade back and saw Cameron was quick, hoping Cameron would get up there, bring Norberg back to him. But outside of Garrison and outside of Pauly, it's a pretty low level or very little experience of running in senior for a lot of those guys that are in the top 10 in the X30 class right now. So we're not seeing where we've seen, I think, probably an older average age of the lead pack in the previous couple seasons, where when one guy was that quick, they were getting stuffed right off the bat. Now there's only one or two guys that are really thinking on that level, and a lot of the rookies, I think, are just happy to be up there. But let's so we had another question here, and this was kind of posed. So the X30 Junior race, let's go ahead and we'll play the finish. This is what it looked like for 20 laps straight. Drayton. Oh, no. It was good before. It won't play. Oh,
Xander dropping
ridiculous.
the ball.
Dropping the I can't blame Drayton. Drayton's awesome. Drayton's our behind-the-scenes producer that helps us put on this show now. But yeah.
Can I buy you a little bit of time real quick and go back to that Ryan Norberg thing?
What do you want to say, Aaron?
So one thing that I noticed from watching Ryan drive is he is so easy on his tires. And I might be giving away a couple of the secrets that I've seen. He's so easy on his tires that it seems like a bunch of guys just want to follow him and like follow the pace. And then he just gets faster as they go on. And if you just fight with him and make him work the tires more, he won't, maybe, I'm not an X30 racer. I wouldn't know for sure. If you fight him more and don't give him that tire advantage because he's so good at looking after his tires, that's where you're probably going to get that, that advantage over, or at least just close the distance between what he has over everybody else. But like Chase was saying, nobody wants to fight with him. They all like kind of play super nice with him when they really, in my opinion, shouldn't be, because that's kind of where he runs away with everything.
All right. Fair. You're right. Fair enough. You
Wait,
can see that. Too.
wait.
Whoa, what, Paul? What you
No,
got?
I agree with him. I agree with him.
All right,
But
all right.
Ryan always plays like, oh, they never want to battle me, blah blah blah. But then like, what was it? Yeah, the Saturday pre-final.
Saturday pre-final.
I was going at him, and then we come in the scale line, and he starts yelling at me. And it's like, I don't know what you expect when you got like fast shit. Like, I'm just gonna attack you. And then he came in and he was screaming at me. So I was like, all right, whatever.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he's a passionate guy, man. We've seen that in the old videos too. Yeah. So, shoot, there were a few other ones that came. Oh, you know what? Who else needs some love, man? Colin Warren, dude. That guy was tuning on his own go-kart all by himself all weekend. He went fastest in happy hour. He qualified up front, and I think he podiumed on Saturday. But you always forget the Saturday podium because we end on Sunday and we come out of the weekend, remember, in the Sunday race. Shout out to that guy, too. That guy deserves driver of the day for hopping in an X30 kart with no testing. Hasn't driven that package probably since SSKC 2020.
I think he ran
maybe?
Super Nats this year.
Oh, he did run Super. You're right. He ran Super Nats.
But he does come from the 206 background as well. Like, he runs more of that than he does the X30 package. So I was impressed with him as well. I mean, he drove very well.
Yeah, he's one bad dude, man, and he's a guy who makes me work. Makes me want to work really, really hard on what we do. To like what we talked about with Circle K coming on with Caleb is to try and get some more notoriety for these big races, because all we want is the best drivers in the fastest go-karts going at it, and it puts on the best show, shifter, non-shifter, whatever. I'd love to see him get more opportunities. I hope he will. Austin Garrison said he's hoping to be back. I talked with Mike Speed at the end of the weekend. He was stoked with how their whole team ran. I mean, they were 2, 3, 4 on Sunday, for most of the session. So, I mean, they were killing it between Jeffers, Cameron, and Austin on 2 different platforms. So they were really happy. But this was but the X30 junior class is, so there's 2 more things I want to talk about Racecraft before we sign off. Chase, I know you got to go here at 9. If you got a dip, you can. But
no, you're all good, man. Go ahead.
Last 2 things. So the 2 things. The blocking thing has been something that some people think it's because the pushbacks, you're seeing less people get punted when they start blocking early in the race. But the whole Racecraft's kind of become more and more of that. And Pauly, you kind of touched on it talking about KA, where guys are passing and blocking early and earlier, and we've got more guys at the same speed. I don't know how you fix it. I mean, when they block, they go down to the bottom to defend. One viewer that sent in a suggestion is like, and Pauly, you can remember this, and John, did you run the double Summer Nats 2020?
Yeah.
So remember double Summer Nats 2020? They just got Bo Barfield and John Maskey into the SCUSA booth, and their blocking rule was different. They didn't really care how many moves you made. You just couldn't turn your head. You couldn't look back and see how close the guy was to decide if you wanted to close off the inside. You obviously can't chop him when he's already there, but they didn't really have an issue of whether or not you move back up for the corner. The issue was the reaction, which is a car-type blocking rule more because you have mirrors in the car. So they're going off reaction in car racing or not. Karting, they basically said don't turn your head around. So what did you guys think of that rule? Do you think if that rule gets instituted, along with the no moving up to open up for the corner, does that take out some of the blocking if you have to kind of go off your ears and you're not allowed to turn around and make it you can turn around, you just can't turn around and then move low? What do you think, Pauly?
To be honest, I didn't even know that was a rule at that double weekend. So, well, I was running in the back that weekend up until Sunday, so I didn't really even know that was a rule. But no, I feel like that's pretty good. You just have to have good ears, but also at the same time, like glass slap if you can't look back and you don't really know where they're at. I don't know. It'd be tough.
What about you, John? What do you think about that rule?
I remember that, and I didn't do that because I grew up where if you blocked and came back up, that's where the penalty comes from. So for me, if you block, you have to stay at the bottom. You can't set up for the turn. That's my opinion.
Yeah, but I mean that's the idea of the current rule where you block and you can't open up for the corner. But
for me, that's how I prefer.
You think don't do the turning back head rule?
No, I don't like that at all. I think if you block, you have to stay down. You can't come back up.
well, let's say you have both, right? Not like how Summer Nats was, but like what if you had it where, you know, not only can you not come back up, keep the current rule, add on to the current rule, you're not allowed to look back and then go low. Like you either guess go low or you look back and then you have to stay high.
I don't agree with that either. I feel like if you go down and you don't come back up, you're fine.
Okay, fair
I feel
enough.
like that
Chase,
rule is fine for me.
what about you, Chase? What do you think?
I'm gonna kind of agree with John here. You know, I was kind of growing up in the same era. I would say like you get one move, and as soon as you dictate that line into the corner, you have to stay there. I'm okay with the looking back situation, except when you know, the driver turns back 4 different times before the corner and is changing lanes. And you know, I'm not going to name any names here, but there was definitely one specific driver that did it quite a bit throughout the weekend. And I'm not a fan of that kind of driving. It's kind of like driving with a rear view mirror at that point. But yeah, one lane, and you can look as much as you want, but as soon as you dictate your lane, that's it.
Okay, fair enough. Aaron, what do you think?
I've always liked the one lane, you know, you go down to defend, you have to hold that line, whatever. I also always kind of took it as like, as soon as you look and turn your head, you've committed to your line by that point. Because as soon as you turn your head and then make a move, that's a reactionary move, and that's considered blocking, in my opinion. And that's not running a defensive line, that's not defending the corner, that's just blocking, which we shouldn't be allowing. I specifically remember there have been a couple of races where I had somebody, I'd pull out and I'd be about here on them, and then the driver would turn their head and chop down on me. And so I always looked at it as soon as you look around yourself, you've committed to your line. So you can defend and then look and then hold your line there, but you can't look and then go to defend.
Got you. All right. Well, it was just a question here because there's more and more of it now than probably there ever has been, and not as many guys are sending it. I mean, I don't know, Pauly, if you're a race director, if someone's blocking before 2 to go, are you going to give them a free pass to get punted out of the way and not give a penalty? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, if they're doing it like every single quarter, just white lighting, I'd take them out myself. I'd just run out on the track and do it myself. But yeah, I definitely give someone a free pass for
that. John, what about you, man? If the guys are blocking early in the race, they get rooted. Or if you block and you get rooted early in the race, you're gonna be like, I was blocking early. Like that's a risk I take.
It depends. X30, yes. K, no.
K, no. Why not?
Go after the guy.
Why is that?
Just because it's not as much of a. It's more like junior racing in K than X30.
Okay,
it's the only way I know how to explain it.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I mean, that's why I look at them both as like kind of left or right lane to get up to the X30. They're both ladder classes in that regard. You know, because of the way the racing is and how it works. Either you get in the sport late and you go KA senior and then X30 senior, or if you come up through mini and X30 junior, you can go straight into X30 junior. So that's a good point, I think. Let's put it over. Chase, what do you think? Block in lap early, moved out of the way, fair game, or should there be a penalty for getting punted?
If you've got the lead or, whatever, I, watched junior race, stars race actually last year where one specific driver literally white lined it the whole race. And, if that's me, and I think Pauly and possibly John would agree, I'm not going to put up with it the whole race. So I agree with that. But, I'm a big advocate for like early race blocking and braking zones when everybody's backed up. But when it comes to the last couple laps, I think 5 to go is fair. I think, you get in that 5 to go range, you can dictate, what you want to do as the leader.
Fair enough. Let's see. And
mine's 3 to go.
Aaron. Yeah, 3 to go. All right. Aaron, when's your medium? When they're allowed to block, when they're not allowed to block? Are they allowed to do it all race and not get punted, or if they get punted early? What do you think? Where's the line you're drawing?
If you're going to do it all race, I think it's fair that you get punted. But I mean, if you just know it's towards the end of the race and stuff, and you want to start defending, it's the driver ahead of you is checked out or you're in the lead, you have to defend. Like that's fair game. But also still, if you want to defend super aggressively and you get moved, I'm not going to say like you didn't deserve it. So it's kind of, there's a weird balance there, in my opinion, on how I would call the treatment of a driver that's blocking for however long the race is. I remember Travis Zanuto did that really badly in 2018 Vegas. He would block from like lap 2 all the way through the race, and people just started moving him. And I was like, you know what? He kind of deserved it at that point.
Yeah, 100%. The last thing, this was a big topic that had a few protests on it, was the start procedures for the series. So talking to you guys as drivers, as coaches, as team owners here with Chase, as all three, how do you guys want the starts? Do you like having a box where the pole sitter can go at any time? Do you want a specific cone? And then kind of building off that, where should that be? Should that be down by turn 1, keep the speeds low, pack the field up? Or do we go back to where we were 20 years ago and let them be like IndyCar starts and the pole sitter can gun it almost out of the last turn and spread the field out? Chase, you first.
Personal opinion, I think it needs to be where the box is, I would say, longer. The pole sitter is the one that starts the race. At the end of the day, the pole sitter is the one that sets the tone and starts the race. I think it needs to come down to that person. I don't think necessarily a box is the greatest thing. But then again, you've got to also think about, the whole pack and not having, the train wrecking and the tram lines and things like that. So I think, it comes up to the pole sitter. So however the series can dictate, how that can work, I think that's the best bet. But there's no right or wrong answer to that, I believe.
Got you. Pauly, what do you think? Do you like start box? Do you like acceleration cone? Where do you want it? By turn 1 or out of the last turn?
I kind of like the way it is now. I feel like if we would go from the last turn, we'd be rolling so much more speed, so there'd just be more crashes into turn 1. So, I like the way it is. I think keep the speeds low up until we get close to turn 1, and then go for it. So there's less of a chance that we all wreck.
Do you like a box or a cone?
What?
For the pole sitter? Do you like the box or the cone? Like cone, like one specific point the pole sitter has to go at, or an official box and you can go anywhere in the box? What do you like?
I'd probably say the box. Go anywhere inside the box. I like that.
John, what about you? Box or cone?
This one's kind of hard for me because, I think the best is Europe, how you come out of the last turn and just gun it. But then again, if you send micros, K juniors, and K seniors into that, you're just going to wreck into the turn 1 with cold tires. But it would be nice if maybe X30 junior and senior, you come out of the last turn, and whenever the pole center wants to gun it, he guns it. Because for me, I've watched them, and they're high speed, and you know where you stand with the guy when you go into the first turn. We're all low speed. We don't exactly know where we stand and try to hit the guy on our outside off or try to pinch the guy on the inside, and we end up wrecking.
See, that I agree with that. I'm with you on that one. I think I'd like to see it in the modern era with the bodywork that we have over here in the U.S. and how it would go, like you said, with maybe let's just say the 125 classes. But like letting the pole sitter go early, what happens in that, it's not like Pauly or Chase or Aaron where it'll be packed up into the last turn and it's a tight pack. Normally the 20th on back is single file spread out because they're hustling to catch up to the group and they're having to round the last corner. So naturally, when they let them go that much earlier, it spreads out. And yeah, there's a chance that if they do wreck, it's at a higher speed in front of the field, but the field's not as tight. So you don't have to worry about the guy in last lagging back and jumping the start, which happens every race we go to when a fast guy goes to the back and tries to make up a bunch of spots. He lags back and he times it. And sometimes he gets caught by the series. Sometimes he falls within the rules and he gets away with passing 10 rows early. Sometimes at SuperNats, guys do it and don't care because it's a non-points race and they're just trying to finish in the top 10 when they cross the line. I saw that on the single file restart last year. I love Oliver Calvo. I'm going to call him out because he's a good friend of mine. But he picked up like 30 spots from like dead last. That was in like 13th by the end of the red flag restart at SuperNat. So I'm just saying that because that was the first thing that came to mind. I love Oliver. He's one bad dude behind the wheel. But I think it's better if we started out of the last turn and I don't know if it's better. I want to see it. I'm curious. Aaron, what about you?
So I just specifically remember Road America because we used to start it at the traditional start-finish line, and that was always a mess going into turn one. So I prefer the starts closer to turn one and, keeping the speeds lower going into there. And I like the start box personally just because it gives, you qualify on pole, you went fastest in qualifying, you deserve, some small advantage for going on the start. And then with the start box, the way it's supposed to work is you have two sets of cones, one here, and the pole sitter picks any point between them to accelerate. And he still gets that gamesmanship of being able to accelerate at his choosing and not the flag man's choosing, which I think is something he's earned by qualifying on pole. So I like the start box. I would prefer it being closer to the first turn. But I can also see what you guys are saying with, like, if it's a X30 Rock Senior 125 class, let them just gun it out of the last corner. And that I could see it working in a 125 Pro class if it was actually, like, pro properly. So I'd be open for that as well. Gotcha.
Well, I think that, even Road America, that's like halfway down the straightaway. So I think it would be even better if they let him go out of the last, like, it's got to be within the last 20 feet out of the last turn to go. On that note, let's go through the last bit of comments here because we've gotten a lot of comments and there were a few that I wanted to address that have come in on the stream. First and foremost, before we do that, many of you guys remember, I think it was either the last show or the show before, I was trying to have Austin Garrison on the show, and he texted me that he was going to come on, and then when I texted him about an hour out from the show, he sent me a picture that he was out on his boat and was drinking some beer. Well, I texted him today to let him see if he'd be down to come on the show to make sure, and he said, yeah, what time does it start? And I completely missed this text, and I know he's upset at me. So now I've gone the opposite way, completely ghosted that guy. So he probably will never be coming on this show at all at this point. But sometime we're going to stop playing phone tag, and I'm going to get Austin G on the show because he is one cool dude. But sorry, Austin, publicly, I missed your text. I should have looked for it. I'm running on like 2 hours of sleep, so I'm going to call that as an excuse and cop out. Let's see what we got here. So, this one here. So Ryan Woon, the live broadcasts are great. One suggestion: do the live interviews with the winners in between the races, not during another class final. You can miss good traction on track during the interviews, but winners have time once their finals are over. Yes and no. So this is something that's big with us. First of all, what sucks is you get guys like Pauly who run away when the race is over, and I never see him again. So I can't make him wait a whole session, because if we were going to do it right after, we've tried it where we go into the scale line and kind of get in the scale line to do the interviews. And the series, then we start backing up the series, and the series kind of gets a little frustrated because they're ready to roll through tech. We did that at Orlando. We interviewed guys before they went through scales at Orlando. I got to Ryan, and then they called all the drivers through the scales. Then we had to go to commercial, then come back after they came out of the scales. But there was no race after that, so there was no worries about the delay. So since we can't get them before the scales, they're not going. The next race will start before the leader gets out of the scale line. So I can't get the previous race, which means I got to make them sit around for 20 minutes for the next race to finish to interview them in the middle. What I tried to do this week and at all the other weeks when we do those interviews mid-race is at least try to have a half-decent balance where we have the interview audio go while the on-track stuff is being shown, and go back and forth with showing them for like 5-10 seconds, then go to show their face and then go back. There was only one session this weekend that I really kind of burned a lot of their laps on interviews from another race, and that was the Micro Swift class on Sunday. But that was because I had all of our cameras on our full array ready to watch if the race was going to change hands. But those three kids drove a really smart race. Ashton, I think it was Jackson Gibson, and I can't remember the other one, man. I feel so bad. Three kids, they were single file from lap 2 to lap 19. So instead of watching the same guys go single file for the entire race, I went to some interviews during about the midway through it. But yeah, that's something we keep in mind on. Here's Pignataro. See, Phil wants to fight. Phil's suggestion for why the racing is so bad is because we can't fight. And that's why he says the difference between master racing, they're all adults. They can swing on each other. You can't have Race Liberante swinging on a 14-year-old. He's too nice anyway, which, true. You can't go. I can't go swing on John. Well, no, John, you're 18 now, right?
Nope, 17.
Oh, okay. So I would go to jail if I beat the heck out of John.
Yeah.
See, I can't do that.
No,
all right.
no.
Noted. Oh my gosh. Let me go through some of these other ones that we had here. Let's see. I like this too. I think this also, but you got to almost start the club like this. It was Piggy's just been going on a rant here tonight. Pig and Tartle saying club level racing needs to get rid of qualifying and have P-pick an inverted order for the final so kids can learn to pass and not blast people off the racetrack. I think that's good. Pauly, probably you're not a fan of this at GoPro because every time it's done at a GoPro, it's wadded up more go-karts than it hasn't. But Chase, what do you think about this? This is up your wheelhouse.
Yeah. So, you know, when it comes to the local level and these younger kids, the P-pick, you know, I think it has a lot of great aspects to it. But if those younger kids are trying to get to that next level and they don't have that qualifying experience, I think it delays the whole process when we make that next step. So me personally, I'm a big fan for qualifying at the local level. It makes everyone step their game up, but it also gets these kids the experience for qualifying when they go to that next level.
Yeah, fair enough. That's a good point. Okay. So this was going off that one's pre-record. We're not fully set. That would basically be like an instant replay. That's like one of the top two things I'm trying to work on for our broadcast is to get instant replays and onboard cameras. But a way to do it, yeah, because that's how TV does it sometimes. And yes, Rocco Simone was the other one in the pack. So I want to give him some love. Rocco Simone was the other one in the top three. Let's see. Let's go further back. I know we had some more that came in, but I think that was wrapping about all of it.
They got pretty hot for a while in there.
It did get a little bit wild here tonight, guys. I'm not gonna lie. This one was good. Yeah. Okay. All right. I think that clears it all out here. So closing thoughts, Pauly and John. You guys aren't having a backdoor fight that no one's gonna find out about after the show's over, right? Maybe.
No.
Pauly, is that boxing ring open yet?
I have no idea what you said. It just keeps lagging out for me. So you try and say that again, but I don't know.
Hey, I'm down for like a Logan Paul fight.
Pauly's going to have
Logan
one
Paul.
moment.
Yeah, one moment. Pauly, we've been talking about – Pauly, turn your phone up so we can see more than just your hat, you goober.
No.
All right. Good night, Pauly. We were asking if you and John were going to fight after this. John says he's down for a Logan Paul fight and make some money. You down to get in the boxing ring?
No, he's underage. I go to jail.
Oh, you're over 18.
Yeah. Paulie's old now. Look at his beard, bro.
Yeah.
He tries to get into bars and stuff. Chase, any closing thoughts, man? I appreciate you coming on.
No, man. I think it was a good episode. Yeah, I'm kind of a fan about the boxing ring at the Scale House, though.
I like it. I'm down for it. If we ever have enough guys to have an 18+ class, you can bet we're gonna let them fight. I like the Chili Bowl rule.
That's got to be a thing, man.
18+
class.
Cameras, 18+, one-on-one, no mechanics, no anyone else. If you fight in the pits, you're gone. If you fight on camera, on the racetrack, or in the scales, one-on-one, go for it. We'll make some TV. Aaron, what do you think? Same thing? You're down?
Dude, I've been saying that for years. Seniors got to be 18+. Just make junior like 13 to 17. It's the day you turn 18, you can run in senior and just wail on each other. Yeah, sometimes you just deserve it, and it's got to happen.
Pauly, can you confirm this? Do you have pants on right now?
I do have pants on.
I don't believe you, but please don't show. We're good. All right. On that note here, we're going to sign off here. Thanks, as always, to everyone for tuning in. Thank you to John, Pauly, and Chase for joining, boys. We appreciate you. We will be signing off. When we come back here next week, we're going to have a few different guests on the show. I want to talk about some more stuff with the sport besides what just happens each race weekend and who we should be putting in a boxing ring and who we shouldn't, and the normal drama that goes on. So we're going to have some fun with that. I want to talk about media. I want to talk about coaching, how to get out of – if you want to figure out how to get a budget for cars. If you have the budget for cars, how do you do cars? All that stuff hopefully coming in the coming weeks, since we have a few weeks of gap before we come back with more racing, at least on our broadcast in May. And the pro national races really are done till June. Although the Stars Series is coming up there. That could be a big number 4 of the big 3 national series here really soon. We'll see how it goes when we go kick them off in Newcastle in a few weeks. Thanks for watching, guys.